morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to show you Scizor VMAX. Yeah, it turns out Scizor VMAX is, really good. And it's doing a whole bunch of winning. So it seems like the kind of Pokemon we need to be having a little bit of a look about. I've got a couple of deck lists for you. They're quite different, but there are a lot of similarities between them. So let's get rolling, shall we? Now, shout out to the lovely Talonite X, I should say, over on Twitter for hooking me up with these deck lists. Awesome, awesome dude. Give him a follow. So, Scizor V. Scizor V, free energy 140 does not excite me. 1 metal energy, 30 damage, discard all Pokemon tools and special energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Okay, fine. I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it's a nice little emergency attack. It's a nice attack. Let's say you're against a Dragapult with 2 horror energy on, for argument's sake. Some Pokemon that's really relying on special energy or tools. Then I love it. Outside of that, no. We're really not playing this for the Pokemon V here. We're playing this for the Pokemon VMAX. Now, 2 energy, 90 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less from attacks. And we're playing a bunch of other stuff here in both lists to try and reduce the amount of damage we take. This turned into a very, very tanky Pokemon very, very quickly. Or free energy 190 damage, which is quite a nice amount. So essentially what you do here is you sit here poking at your opponent with the tee-hee-hee you can't KO me attack, and then you come in with a big attack to start taking prizes. It's cool. There's nothing about Scizor which is like, oh, look at me, I'm going to smash and take millions of prizes in one go, but it is very, very good at buy some time while tanking, getting a bit of damage on the field, and then cleaning up afterwards. It's very cool. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, one that we see in both the lists here is Duraludon. I'm going to show you 2 winning lists here, and in both of them, we do actually see Duraludon. Now, this is the one that for a single energy lets you do 30 damage, the one from Rebel Clash, and then attach a metal energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. It's good. You see, Scizor doesn't have a good turn 1 going second attack, unless your opponent's attached loads of tools and special energy, so you might as well do a bit of energy while accelerating a bit of energy. That's very, very cool. And we do see that both of the lists here play Lucario and Melmetal, and this is your GX attack of choice here. For the rest of the game, all of your metal Pokemon take 30 less damage from attacks. And that's the goal here. Because now, of course, you're taking 30 less from your attack, and then you're taking 30 less from this GX attack, and then, spoiler alert, we're playing Metal Frying Pan to take 30 less damage and make sure that we're not being hit for weakness, and now all of a sudden we're taking 90 less damage from attacks. And we have no weakness, and we're starting off with 320 HP here, right? This is pretty gigantic. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. It just basically makes you near impossible to one-hit KO. It's going to take something really special to get you down in one hit here. Now, after that, we do start to move away a little bit. One of the lists actually plays both Zacian and Zamazenta. Zacian is the same as it's always been. You draw 3 cards as the ability. If any of them are metal energy, you attach them, and then your turn ends. Or free energy 230 damage. It's a nice, efficient attacker, as well as having a nice ability if you got no attack you really want to use. Zamazenta's attack is nowhere near as good, free energy 130 and discard a special energy from your opponent's active, but it's also got an ability that makes it immune to VMAXs, and VMAXs are getting better and better and better as time goes by, with Eternatus VMAX looking like the best deck in the format moving forward. It's a good time to start playing Zamazenta. And then we've got Dedenne, discard your hand, draw 6 cards. It's there for a little bit of consistency. Oranguru, that swaps the top card of your deck with a card in your hand. It's there for a little bit of consistency. And that Marshadow, which is nice for just taking away your opponent's stadium. Moving into the other list is quite different. We play 3 copies of Jirachi. If it's in the active, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put a trainer in your hand, it goes to sleep, free retreat with a skateboard. We've seen it once or twice, and that really is your consistency of choice in this particular deck. We see a 1/1 copy of Berserker. This is the one that makes your metal Pokemon do an extra 20 damage. That's pretty gosh darn good, getting extra damage on the field. And then 1 copy of Fione. That's the one that if it's sitting on the bench, you get to put it on the bottom of your deck, and your opponent switches their active Pokemon, though they get to choose which one is brought up instead. Yeah, it's good, quite frankly. Stops you decking out, and makes your opponent switch their active if they're trying to block you with something like a Lily's Pokédoll, for instance. It's very, very nice. So they're the Pokemon lines. Energy-wise, we're largely just going Metal Energy, though it is worth pointing out that we see a single copy here of Capture Energy, just in one of the lists. One of the lists plays 1 copy of Capture Energy. When you attach it to your Pokemon, you get to search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put them on the bench. This is just a really nice option for getting your basics out. And giving in mind, Scizor's attacks, except for the first attack on the V, they all have a colourless requirement anyway. There isn't a very strong argument against playing 1 random Capture Energy here. It could really be the thing that helps you to set up. Now, in terms of trainers, there is a lot that we would generally expect to see. Yes, they both play 4 copies of Quick Ball, because you're talking largely basic decks here. But then you do have a few evolutions, so we see, well, one deck plays Pokemon Communication, the other deck actually just relies on drawing into it, which is a little bit weird, but hey, if your deck's consistent enough, I suppose you can work with it. Obviously, both decks play Boss's Orders for a little bit of gusting. Obviously, we're playing Professor's Research here. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Fastest, most aggressive draw supporter we've got. And obviously, we're playing Marnie in both of these decks. That makes your opponent and yourself shuffle your hand and put them on the bottom of your deck. You draw 5 cards, your opponent draws 4. Good for a little bit of disruption, and also good just as a draw card. And then Cynthia is the other good supporter, so we play a little bit of Cynthia in here as well. Nice. Now, there are a couple of cards that are specific to Metal that we need to play. We've already mentioned Metal Frying Pan. That is absolutely huge for reducing damage and making sure you're not hit for weakness, though you could also go Metal Goggles, which reduces damage by 30 and stops damage counters being dropped on you. That is an option. And then, of course, we see Metal Saucer here. Metal Saucer lets you attach a Metal Energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Metal Pokemon. Clearly, in a deck like this, it is an absolute must-use because it's an extra 4 Metal Energy that you're getting during the course of the game. So why would you not, ladies and gentlemen? Why would you not? Trick question. You obviously would. Now, the Jirachi list has to play a skateboard. That shouldn't really need to be said too much. And one of the lists, but only one of them, goes pretty heavy on Mallow and Lana. That's the one that lets you switch and also heal 120. But bearing in mind, you've got a 320 HP Pokemon that is reducing damage done to it by 90, hopefully. Without having a weakness, healing becomes pretty gosh darned important here. And in terms of stadiums, we see one player going for Sky Pillar. That's the one that stops effects of attacks, including damage done to your bench Pokemon. It's nice for stopping bench damage, but it's also nice for stopping damage counters, like, for instance, Dragapult absolutely loves doing lately. So that's something I would very much bear in mind. And then the other one plays Mount Coronet. Lets you pick up 2 Metal Energy from your discard and put them into your hand. It just means you don't run out of basic energy. It's quite nice. Now, the only other card really here that is particularly weird, I mean, obviously we're playing multiple copies of Switch to get the right Pokemon in the active. That's fairly standard. But the last card I specifically want to point out, and this is going to rotate fairly shortly, but one of the lists is actually playing Cyrus Prism Star. Now, that is a Prism Star supporter, so it's 1 in your deck. And you can only play it if your active Pokemon is a Water or Metal Pokemon, but bearing in mind you play lots of them, your opponent chooses 2 bench Pokemon and shuffles the others and all cards attached to them into their deck. So if you're against any kind of setup Pokemon or any kind of deck that really wants to make sure they've got a lot of good options on the bench, this will absolutely wreck them. Good times, ladies and gentlemen. Good times. Here is the first list provided by the lovely Talonite X. This is the Zacian Zamazenta one. We've got the single Oranguru, single Marshadow. We've got Sky Pillar, 2 copies of Duraludon here. And then we've got a couple of Air Balloon and a Reset Stamp as well. And then moving over into the other list, this is the one that does choose to play Jirachi and Fione. And then you got your Cyrus and your Mount Coronet and your 3 copies of Mallow and Lana. Lots of similarities between these decks, but lots of differences as well. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of fun stuff to be excited about. Lots of cool stuff to get hyped about. And another deck which has a really good chance to be really good. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about Scizor and whether you think it's legit. So go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.